What the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Sound too bold, seem like hyperbole. That's precisely what Napoleon Hill intended, to make you question your own limitations. If you're tired of feeling vulnerable, exploding over insignificant situations, or living in constant anxiety about what others think, you'll learn in under 10 minutes how to shield your emotions and stop needless suffering. Have you noticed that when you lack a clear vision of what you want from life, everything around you seems to hold power over you? Criticism destabilizes you. An unexpected event throws you off balance. A dissenting opinion makes you rethink everything. It's like being adrift at sea without a compass or rudder, at the mercy of the tide, a tide that rarely carries you where you want to go. Napoleon Hill said that without a defined purpose, you become a prisoner of circumstance. Family opinion, work pressure, fleeting trends everyone follows, the invisible expectations society imposes from a young age. When you don't set your own course, you end up working towards someone else's dream without even realizing it. The crux is this: having a purpose isn't about creating a pretty phrase to stick on your wall. It's about making a commitment to yourself so clear that no distraction can compete with it. Think back to the last time you woke up with an important task in mind. Did you notice how your energy and attention focused on that one thing? It's as if, suddenly, everything else loses significance. Now imagine living like that every day, with that clarity, that direction. But I know most people experience the opposite. How often have you been busy all day, only to feel like you haven't made significant progress? This happens because, without a central objective, you waste energy on dozens of tasks unrelated to who you want to be or the life you want to build. It's like trying to start a fire by scattering matches all over the place. None will truly ignite. Science confirms what Hill taught over 80 years ago. Research from Dominican University in California showed that people who write down and regularly review their goals are up to 42% more likely to achieve them. Simply defining a purpose creates a mental filter. You begin to identify more quickly what contributes to your goal and what's just noise. Let's bring this to real life. Imagine a young person who wants to become a doctor. While friends are deciding between parties and binge-watching TV shows, they know their priority is studying for college entrance exams. And when temptation strikes, they ask themselves, is this important to my purpose, or is it just momentary pleasure? This simple question keeps their focus sharp. You can apply the same logic to any area: finances, career, relationships, health. Here's the challenge. Do you know exactly what you're building? Because if you don't, you might spend years of your life on something that ultimately holds no value for you. Have you considered that many people only realize this when it's too late? They work for decades climbing a ladder, only to discover at the top that it was leaning against the wrong wall. When you clearly define your path, something shifts within you. Criticism still comes, obstacles still appear, but they lose their weight. You walk with more confidence, understanding that each step is part of something larger. That's why purposeful people exude that almost inexplicable sense of assurance. They may not have all the answers, but they know where they're going, and that's enough to keep moving forward. And I need to tell you, nobody will hand you this purpose on a silver platter. There's no magic moment when it simply appears. You must choose. Choose what's worth investing your time, energy, and attention in. Choose every day to say no to things that don't serve your goals, even if they seem tempting. Choose to stay the course, even when it gets quiet and nobody seems to notice your effort. So, if you feel lost today, like life is pulling you in multiple directions, do a simple exercise. Take a piece of paper and write down, unfiltered, what you truly want to build in the next few years. Not what others expect, not what seems safest, but what would make you proud when you get there. Because the moment you declare with conviction, "This is my path," everything begins to align. Not magically, but because you stop wasting energy on what doesn't matter and invest everything in what truly does. And it's at that moment, when your life begins to revolve around a single purpose, that you cease being tossed about by the winds and finally become the captain of your own destiny. How many times, after an argument or a tense moment, have you thought, "I shouldn't have said that"? It's as if an invisible force took control for a few seconds, and by the time you realize it, it's too late. This happens because, most of the time, it's not you who's in command, it's your emotions. Napoleon Hill said that uncontrolled emotions are like a fire outside the hearth. They don't warm, they burn. They can destroy relationships, decisions, opportunities, and even your self-image. And the most dangerous aspect is that while they're in control, they always seem to be right. But here's what few people understand. Controlling your emotions isn't about pretending you feel nothing or becoming a cold person. It's quite the opposite. It's about feeling everything but choosing how to act upon it. Think of an airline pilot. They may feel fear entering a storm, but they can't let go of the controls and let panic dictate the flight's fate. The same applies to your life. Have you noticed how, in the heat of the moment, our minds always want to resolve everything immediately? That's where the danger lies. This urgency to respond, to justify ourselves, to get even, almost always worsens the situation. That's why Hill taught that between stimulus and response, there's a space, and in that space lies your freedom. A 5-second pause, a simple deep breath, can be the difference between preserving peace or starting an unnecessary war. Consider Will Smith's example at the Oscars. A moment of provocation, an impulsive reaction, and years of career and reputation were shaken. It's not about judgment. It's about understanding that we're all a second away from making a decision that can change everything, and self-control is the only barrier between us and that mistake. Now, bring this to everyday situations. You receive a curt message from your boss. Your mind starts creating scenarios. He's dissatisfied with me. I might lose my job. Before you know it, you're anxious, acting and responding as if the worst-case scenario is real. But what if, instead of reacting immediately, you breathed, analyzed, and responded with clarity? How many crises would be avoided? Neuroscience research shows that intense emotions can hijack the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for rational decisions, for up to 18 minutes. This means that during those moments, you're literally not thinking at your best, and that's when the worst decisions are made. I know controlling your reactions isn't easy. No one wakes up one day and suddenly becomes unshakable. It's training. It's like strengthening a muscle. You start small, with those simple arguments you'd normally jump into, and gradually you realize you're choosing your battles with greater intelligence. And there's an important detail. Maintaining calm isn't a sign of weakness. It's often the opposite. When you don't let yourself be provoked, you show that no one has power over your inner state. It's like silently saying, "I decide what's worth my energy." Imagine how your life would be if, instead of exploding in the face of an obstacle, you could maintain clarity to analyze and act strategically. How many mistakes would be avoided? How many doors would remain open? The invitation is simple yet powerful. The next time you feel that wave of anger, frustration, or anxiety about to overwhelm you, do nothing for 5 seconds. Just breathe, observe, and ask yourself, will this reaction bring me closer to or further from what I want? If the answer is further, change course. It may seem like a small detail, but in that detail, true emotional resilience is built. Because in the end, the world may try to push you in every direction, but you decide whether to yield or stand firm. Many people think discipline is like a prison, a monotonous routine filled with rules that stifle freedom. But that's the view of those who have never experienced its true power. Napoleon Hill explained that discipline isn't about restriction, it's about liberation. It's the opposite of what it seems, because when you live without discipline, chance, momentary whims, and impulsive forces truly run your life. But when you have discipline, you regain control. It's like taking the reins of your own destiny. Hill experienced this intensely. As a young reporter, he was assigned to interview Andrew Carnegie. This could have been just another assignment, a quick conversation to finish the story, but Hill did things differently. He spent 3 days with Carnegie, listening, taking notes, absorbing, and from that emerged a proposition that would change his life: to spend 20 years interviewing the most successful people in the world to discover the principles that guided them. Think about what that means. 2 decades of work, research, travel, conversations, without guarantees, without shortcuts. This was only possible because he had the discipline to persevere, even when there was no immediate result. And discipline is like that. It doesn't ask your opinion about feeling like it or not. It only demands that you show up. It's like the farmer who wakes up before the sun, even in the rain, even in the cold. The planting doesn't wait for his mood, because he knows that if he neglects the field today, he'll pay dearly at harvest time. Your life works the same way. Your goals aren't achieved because you're inspired. They're achieved because you work on them every day, especially on the days you're not inspired. Think how many times you've regretted not doing something you knew you should. That day, you decided to just skip the gym, and that just once turned into 3 weeks. Or that time you put off studying and before you knew it, the exam was upon you. These moments seem small, but they're like bricks. Each one you fail to lay weakens the structure of the future you want to build. Science confirms what Hill advocated. Studies show that self-discipline is one of the greatest indicators of long-term success, even more so than IQ, because discipline creates consistency, and consistency creates results. It's simple math. If you maintain a positive habit every day, however small, it multiplies over time. But here's the detail that separates those who succeed from those who give up. Understanding that discipline isn't an event, it's a lifestyle. You don't use discipline only for one goal and then stop. You make it a part of who you are. And when that happens, things that once seemed like sacrifices begin to become natural. Waking up early stops being torture. Following a plan stops being a burden. Saying no to things that distract you from your goal stops being painful. Imagine your life a year from now if you kept every small promise you make to yourself. I'm not talking about grand gestures, but simple habits: reading 10 pages a day, setting aside a fixed amount of money, dedicating 15 minutes to learning something new. A year later, you'd have read over 3,000 pages, built a significant financial reserve, and mastered a new skill. This isn't magic, it's accumulated discipline. And the most interesting part? Building this reputation with yourself fosters a confidence no one can take away. You'll walk differently, talk differently, decide differently, not out of arrogance, but because you know you can rely on yourself. Discipline keeps the door open until opportunity knocks. Because when it does, there's no time to prepare. You're either ready or the opportunity passes to someone else. That's why, fundamentally, discipline is the greatest form of freedom you can possess. Freedom from dependence on luck, freedom from living with excuses, freedom to live according to your choices, not what's left over. How many times have you started something with enthusiasm, only to feel that urge to quit at the first obstacle? Maybe it was a course, a project, a new habit. Initially it seemed possible, even easy, but a single challenge was enough to extinguish the flame. Napoleon Hill said that's precisely the moment that separates dreamers from achievers. Because the truth is, every worthwhile path will test you, and not just once, but many times. These tests come disguised as delays, criticism, slow results, even absolute silence, when it seems nothing is working. Resilience isn't the absence of pain or frustration. It's the decision to continue even while feeling it all. Think of elite athletes. They train for years to compete for mere seconds. During that time, they face injuries, defeats, and physical and mental limitations. Most people would quit at the first major hurdle, but they persevere because they understand that setbacks are part of the growth process. And in the real world, outside of competitions, it's no different. Imagine a professional who tried to start a business and failed in the first year. Many would say, "It's not for me," but some return to the drawing board, learn from their mistakes, and try again, adjusting what didn't work. Studies show that entrepreneurs who persist after failure have more than double the chance of success in their subsequent attempts. Not because they got luckier, but because they gained experience that only those who've been through the process possess. Hill saw life as a blacksmith shaping steel. Each hammer blow, each impact that seems destructive is actually strengthening and forging resilience. That's why he taught that you shouldn't view a setback as a sign to stop, but as an invitation to become stronger. This is one of the biggest differences between the people we admire and those who quit halfway. Winners understand that failure isn't a full stop, it's just a comma in the story. But why is it so hard to stay the course? Because our brains are wired to avoid pain and seek comfort. And continuing after a setback requires the opposite. Embracing discomfort, handling uncertainty, and most importantly, challenging that inner voice that whispers, "Maybe you're not capable." The truth is, that voice will appear every time you're about to grow. It's not a warning to stop. It's a signal that you're on the edge of ordinary life and the next level. Now, if you think about it, there have been moments in your life when you were more resilient than you realize. Situations that seemed impossible, days when you swore you couldn't take it anymore, and yet here you are. This means the strength already exists within you. The difference is that now you need to use it intentionally, directed towards something you truly want to achieve. Resilience isn't a rare talent, it's a muscle anyone can train. And the training starts in daily life with smaller challenges. It's when you don't abandon a project because it's become tedious, when you don't deviate from your plan because the reward hasn't yet appeared, when you choose to get back up even after a mistake that could embarrass you. Each time you choose to rise, you're accumulating strength to weather bigger storms. And perhaps the most important question you can ask yourself is, how much do I want this? Because if the answer is a great deal, there's no obstacle that can definitively stop you. It will hurt, it will be tiring, there will be days when you want to give up. But the difference between those who succeed and those who don't is that the former understand that every fall is just another step on the path. You don't need to be indestructible to win. You just need to refuse to quit. Your mind is your most valuable territory. It's where your ideas, plans, and decisions are born. But like fertile ground, if you don't tend to it, anything can grow there, including weeds. Napoleon Hill said we are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with, but this association isn't limited to physical contact. Today, what you read, watch, listen to, and follow on social media carries as much weight as your face-to-face conversations. If you allow negative content, toxic conversations, and limiting opinions to occupy space in your thoughts, these seeds will inevitably germinate. The problem is that most people don't realize what they're letting in. It's like leaving your front door open and allowing anyone to enter and rummage through your belongings. How many times have you left a conversation feeling worse than when you entered, or noticed that after consuming certain types of content, your motivation vanished? This is no coincidence. What you feed your mind shapes how you see the world, and most importantly, how you see yourself. And here's a crucial point. A single thought repeated frequently can completely change your trajectory. If you accept an idea like, "I'm not good enough," and repeat it mentally, Over time, it transforms into a belief. And from there, every decision you make or don't make is influenced by that belief. The opposite is also true. A thought strengthened daily, such as, "I'm capable of learning anything I dedicate myself to," can create opportunities that previously seemed unattainable. Consider what happened to Britney Spears. At the height of her fame, surrounded by toxic people and information, she lost control of her own narrative. The whole world watched, and it became clear that neither money nor success is enough to protect someone when their mind is vulnerable. And that's the big lesson. No matter the size of your bank account, your talent, or your status, if you don't have control over what enters and remains in your mind, you'll always be at the mercy of chaos. Protecting your mind requires intention. It means consciously curating what you consume. Before watching a video, ask yourself, will this strengthen or weaken me? Before paying attention to a comment, consider, will this opinion bring me closer to or further from what I want to build? It seems simple, but these small choices determine what will grow within you. Research shows that constant exposure to negative content can significantly increase anxiety and pessimism levels, even if the person doesn't immediately notice. This is because the brain registers and processes emotionally charged information more intensely. In other words, even if you think it's just a silly video or it's just bad news, your nervous system is absorbing it as truth and shaping your perception. The daily exercise is learning to recognize what deserves to stay and what needs to be discarded. You can't control everything that enters your mind, just as you can't prevent a bird from flying overhead. But you can prevent it from building a nest there. The key is not to nurture thoughts that don't serve you. Recognize them, and then let them go. Now imagine living with your mind thus shielded. You wouldn't be swayed by gossip, paralyzed by negative opinions, or drained by useless information. Instead, your focus would be on what builds you up, strengthens you, and propels you forward. This is how you create a mind that doesn't bend to circumstances, but shapes them to align with what you want to experience. Because ultimately, what you hold within is precisely what will determine what happens outside. Protecting your mind is the foundation of everything else, because it's no use having purpose, discipline, or resilience if the seeds you let in are bad. It all begins here, within. And when you master this, each step becomes firmer, each decision clearer, and each challenge lighter. Now, the next step is right there. Click on the video that's appearing on your screen and let's climb another rung together on this journey to becoming, today, at least 1% better than you are now. Thank you for being here with me, and I'll see you in the next video.